Welcome back to FCLE Seminar Podcast, your go-to guide for passing the Florida Civics Literacy Exam. I'm your host, Mercedes Musto, and today we are looking at the founding documents that led to liberty. To understand why the American government looks the way it does, we have to look at its history before its history, meaning the documents that came before the United States Constitution. If you're taking notes, grab a pen because these are the three big influencers you need to know for the exam: the Magna Carta, the Mayflower Compact, and the English Bill of Rights. All right, let's get started. First stop, the Magna Carta. Think the year 1215. Back then, King John was ruling with an iron fist when the barons forced him to sign this great charter. See, it goes like this. According to the National Archives Foundation, quote, the despotic King John of England was confronted by an assembly of barons demanding the traditional rights be recognized, written down, confirmed with the royal seal, and sent to each of the counties to be read to all free men. The king agreed, binding himself and his heirs to grant to all free men of our kingdom the rights and liberties described in the Great Charter, also known as the Magna Carta. The takeaway? It established the rule of law. For the first time, it was written down that the king isn't above the law. The FCLE connection here, when you see due process in the 5th and 14th Amendments, think Magna Carta, because that's where the idea started that the government can't just take your stuff or your life without following a legal process. Second stop, the Mayflower Compact. Let's jump ahead to the year 1620. Now, visualize a ship that we all know as the Mayflower. You know, the ship that the Pilgrims sailed across to the colonies. So when the passengers of the Mayflower arrived, I know there's a lot more to this, of course, but when the passengers arrived, they wrote the Mayflower Compact. Why? Well, according to Plymouth.org, the Mayflower Compact was signed on November 11th, 1620, and was a foundational legal agreement created by the passengers of the Mayflower to establish a social order upon landing in New England. Because, see, the group landed outside their originally permitted territory near the Hudson River, and they lacked official legal authority to settle. So to prevent chaos and bridge the divide between the different passengers, the adult males signed this document to, number one, form a civil body politic. They voluntarily combined into a self-governing community. Number two, to establish law and order. They pledged to create a just and equal laws for the general good of the colony. And number three, to ensure obedience. See, they promised to follow the government they created in what we call today self-governance. Though the original document was lost, history records that 41 men signed the compact, making this a significant early step forward toward self-governance in American history. The takeaway? Self-government. They didn't wait for a king to give them rules. They agreed to just make their own just and equal laws. The FCLE connection here, this is the first practical example of a social contract in the colonies. You know, a government by the consent of the governed. Last stop, the English Bill of Rights. Let's move to the year 1689. Basically, after a long struggle for power, Parliament finally tells the monarchy, hey, here are the rules. And according to History.com, the English Bill of Rights in 1689 was a landmark act signed by William III and Mary II following the Glorious Revolution. It fundamentally shifted power from the monarchy to the Parliament, transforming England into a constitutional monarchy. The ideas introduced here were, number one, limiting the monarchy. See, the crown could no longer interfere with the law, raise an army during peacetime, or impose taxes without Parliament's explicit consent. Number two, parliamentary supremacy. It guaranteed the freedom to elect members of Parliament without royal interference and protected freedom of speech within its chambers. And number three, individual liberties. It established several civil rights that later became the blueprints for American law, including ideas like freedom from cruel and unusual punishment, the right to petition the king, the right to bear arms for self-defense, we've heard that one, and the right to a trial before fines or forfeitures are imposed. Sound familiar? The takeaway, limited government. It is listed specific rights like the right to petition the king and freedom from cruel and unusual punishment. The FCLE connection here, this was the direct inspiration for our own Bill of Rights. If the government's power is limited by a list of citizen rights, it's because of 1689 and the English Bill of Rights. Let's review. All right, 60 seconds on the clock. Let's look at 3 historic documents. First stop, think Magna Carta of the year 1215. According to the National Archives Foundation, the despotic king, John, was forced by the barons to put rights in writing. The takeaway, it established the rule of law. The FCLE connection, when you see due process in our 5th and 14th Amendments, that's the influence of the Magna Carta at work. Next, think the Mayflower Compact of the year 1620. When the Pilgrims landed off course, they didn't wait for royal orders. They signed an agreement to create their own just and equal laws. The takeaway? Self-government. The FCLE connection? This is our first real-world social contract. Government by the consent of the governed. Last stop, think the English Bill of Rights of the year 1689. This is where Parliament finally clipped the monarchy's wings, shifting power to the people's representatives. The takeaway, limited government. It banned cruel and unusual punishment and introduced the right to petition. The FCLE connection here, this was the blueprint for our own Bill of Rights. One more time, Magna Carta, think rule of law. Mayflower, think self-government. And English Bill of Rights, think limited government. That's all for this episode of FCLE Seminar. If you've got thoughts on the founding documents or you've got something you'd like to share, then hey, hit us up in the comments. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. Until then, keep questioning, keep learning, and hey, stay curious. This is your host, Mercedes Musto, signing off.